Folks, I got a political story that just came across my desk this morning. It's titled Judge Blocks Trump's Mail In Voting Plan Again. Notice the again. They love that word. They want you to think this is just another routine slapdown of the big bad Trump administration trying to restrict voting. That's the narrative. That's always the narrative. Let's talk about what actually happened. Earlier this week, Monday, the Supreme Court of the United States granted the Trump administration a stay. They lifted a lower court injunction. Why? Because the lawsuit that produced that injunction was filed too early, premature. The states and the activist groups sued over an executive order before the Postal Service had even finished writing the actual rule. The court said, in essence, you can't challenge something that hasn't happened yet. You don't get to run into court waving your arms about hypothetical harms. Time will tell if the implementation is lawful. That's what the majority wrote. So the administration did what the court said they could do. The Postal Service finalized a rule. States would have to provide lists of people who are supposed to get mail ballots. Envelopes would need unique barcodes so you can actually track the things. Basic chain of custody stuff. The kind of thing any private company would do if they were mailing something valuable. But this is election. So suddenly it's onerous. Suddenly it's practically impossible with 2 months to go. Enter anchor baby Judge Indira Talwani, Obama appointee, Massachusetts. Late Thursday, she slaps another temporary restraining order on the Postal Service. 2 weeks, she says, likely unconstitutional. Compliance is practically impossible. And then she drops this gem. The record continues to lack any evidence regarding fraudulent absentee or mail-in voting. Where's Wanda? Folks, that's the tell. That's always the tell. There is never enough evidence of fraud for these people. They demand a video of someone stuffing a ballot box in broad daylight with a signed confession, and even then, they'll say it was isolated. Meanwhile, they treat the possibility of a citizen not getting a ballot because the state didn't upload a list as a constitutional crisis that will disenfranchise large numbers of voters. Do you see the double standard? The Supreme Court, the actual Supreme Court, said this week that the earlier challenge was premature. The administration then implements the rule immediately. A district judge in Boston says, wait, now that you've implemented it, it's too late and too burdensome, and we still don't have evidence of the problem you're trying to solve. That's not judging. That's policy making from the bench. That's a tyrannical black robe terrorist deciding that mail-in voting must remain as loose and unaccountable as possible, 2 months before a midterm that will decide control of Congress. The media doesn't report the news. They shape it. Look at the headline. Judge blocks Trump's mail-in voting plan again. They don't lead with the Supreme Court just cleared the way for the administration to proceed. They don't mention that Talwani herself had to vacate her own earlier nationwide injunction after the high court ruled. They just give you the latest block, the latest again. So you'll think the courts keep slapping Trump down and that's the end of the story. It isn't the end of the story. The administration will appeal. They should. Because if a district judge can keep resetting the clock every time the other side actually does what the Supreme Court allows them to do, then we don't have a legal process. We have a veto from Boston. Someone, John Roberts, needs to get their district court terrorists in line. Folks, this isn't complicated. States run elections. Congress can set some federal rules. The president doesn't get to rewrite the Constitution by executive order. Everyone agrees to that. But the Postal Service delivering mail, including election mail, and asking for basic tracking and eligible recipient lists is not the same as the president appointing himself Secretary of State of every state in the union. Pretending it is and pretending there's no integrity, interest whatsoever is the real overreach. That's the story Politico wants you to hear. They want the again. I want you to notice the sequence. Supreme Court stay this week. District judge block again 2 days later. Same anchor baby judge, same tyrannical court, same playbook. Stay tuned. This one isn't over. This is where we are today in America. We'll be back, and we hope you will too.